I love Tin Can Knits patterns, except for one thing: too many options. 20 sizes, 3 or 4 different weights, modifications. They write excellent and detailed patterns, but holy moly, keeping track of the information that I need off those patterns can be a challenge. The happy news is they created a knitting app, which means that I can take this mess of notes and highlights and magically turn it into this highlighted step-by-step instructions tailored to your size, your yarn weight, and your modifications. Magic? You better believe it. And even if you never want to knit a Tin Can Knits pattern, I won't judge you much. There are still reasons to have this handy dandy app that they've created. So follow me into the lounge and let's pull back the curtain on this magical knitting app. So Tin Can Knits has been around for quite a while. They have hundreds of amazing patterns and an incredible website loaded with unbelievable tutorials, information, details, techniques, you name it. So why did they need to make a knitting app? They wanted to make things easier for you and me. Their patterns are so size inclusive. They go from baby to big, and that can mean up to 20 sets of size information in every pattern. That's a lot of highlighting to do. A lot of their patterns can also be knit in multiple yarn weights. More sets of information to highlight. The app takes all of that away and gives you clickable access to super helpful video and written techniques and tutorials. Excellent knitting patterns, loads of support, and see only your numbers. How could you not love that? No. You may not believe this, but I am not sponsored by Tin Can Knits. I am getting no compensation for this gushing video, but I was a beta tester for this app. So I do feel a teeny tiny little bit of ownership in relation to showing you this. Okay, let's take a look at the app, shall we? First, they have this super cute little icon. It's orange and it's in the shape of a knit stitch. Open up the app and it's bright, it's clean, it's simple, and it's easy to navigate. Now, if your first reaction is that this isn't your aesthetic jam, don't fret. There are easily changed settings that we're going to get to in a bit. There are only 4 tabs down on the bottom. Everything is easy to find, which is a relief because sometimes these apps can get very overwhelming. Not unlike Ravelry, which I've been showing you recently. If you haven't seen my Ravelry tutorials yet, there's a link up above there to a playlist of the first 2 parts. And if you're a Knit Companion user, this will all seem a little bit familiar, albeit quite simplified and strictly focused at the moment on Tin Can Knits' own patterns. Let's look at some detail on the homepage. You can see that I already have a couple of projects that I've started that I can access directly from this page when I come in. This is just a quick little taste of what the inside of a project looks like. We're going to go into that in detail in a little bit. Next, if I'm ready to cast on something new, this button tells me how many patterns I have access to, and if I click it, it's going to take me directly to those patterns for me to get started on a project. When you get the app, it will come loaded with 10 free patterns from the Tin Can Knits Simple Collection. I have knit more than a couple of them, and while they are simple, they are 100% knit-worthy. I also have about 12 other patterns in this section, which are app-enabled patterns that I have already purchased from Tin Can Knits. This app links directly with my Ravelry library, and as those patterns become live and responsive on the app, they are automatically added into my app. In the how-to section, you have direct links to Tin Can Knit's YouTube video tutorials about how to use this app. I think this is the best version of an app manual ever. And this part towards the bottom of the page is just to give you an idea of some of the other patterns that Tin Can Knits has available for purchase. These are not app-enabled patterns. They are Tin Can Knits regular PDF patterns. I don't know for sure, but I'm going to assume that these little promos change fairly regularly. And then we've got support right here on the home page. If you click on the techniques bar, you're going to see a list of links to in-depth tutorials. Again, these are going to take you to videos. So for instance, if I want to knit the flax sweater, I can just click on the flax tutorial and it'll take me right to the written tutorial on Tin Can Knit's website. And when they say in-depth, they mean it. You could scroll down a little further to techniques. If you need to learn how to do a bobble, you've never done a bobble before, again, you can link directly to the tutorial on Tin Can Knit's website. And I'm just going to say it, I think that this techniques, there's just about every technique you could think of in here. I'm so impressed with this level of support. And then, if the techniques weren't enough for you, they also have abbreviations. Now, these are Tin Can Knits abbreviations for their patterns, but in scrolling through this, I can see from my own experience that these are very commonly used abbreviations. So I would say that any pattern that you're currently working on, if you need a bit of information about a technique or to know what an abbreviation means and the pattern isn't being super clear, pop into this app and you will get that detailed support and instruction that you need for any pattern. That's why I said, even if you don't want to do Tin Can Knits patterns, this app is helpful. And again, there are more links to tutorials down at the bottom of this page. I told you, Tin Can Knits is here to help you knit successfully. And finally, down at the bottom, there are a bunch of ways to get in touch with Emily and Alexa, who are not only excellent and talented pattern designers, but also very lovely humans, and would be happy to hear from you. Okay, let's start a project. Before we do that, you may have noticed that one of the patterns included on the Tin Can Knits app is, ta-da, the love note. Now, unfortunately, I knit this love note many years ago before there was a Tin Can Knits app. I'm very tempted to knit it again just so I can knit it in the app because I think it would be so exciting and fun. But never mind any of that. Let's move on and get a project going in this app. All right, we're going to get a project going in a minute, but before we do that, let's look at ways to customize this app so that it is perfect for you. To get in to customize it, you want to click the little profile icon up in the corner. So let's click that and take a look. All right, we're in here. You can see that I was a beta tester. And if we go into settings, here are some great options for you to choose from to get this app exactly the way you like it. First one is you can choose between metric units, imperial units, or a mix of both. Because I am Canadian, I'm going to choose mix because that's what we do up here. We are a metric country, but pretty much all Canadians throw some imperial in there just for fun. So I like to have both. The next change we can make is adjusting the size of the text. You can blow it up super big to make it easy to see, or you can shrink it down super small if you want more text on the screen so you don't have to scroll around quite as much. I'm going to plant it right in the middle for the purposes of this demo. And below that, we can switch the whole feel of this app from light mode, which it's in right now, to dark mode. I actually use this app in dark mode. You will have noticed in my Ravelry tutorial videos that I also use dark mode there. I use dark mode for most computer applications when I can. I just find it easier on my eyes. But the reverse may be true for you. So you get to pick. Right now, I'm going to put it back to light mode because again, I think that's easier for viewing in this video. Under that, you have the option to click the button to keep the screen on. And I know this one makes me really happy. If you do that, what it means is your screen will stay on while you're working on your pattern and you don't have to worry about it vanishing and having to reopen your phone or your tablet every 5 minutes. You know, that thing you have to do where you have to keep tapping the screen so that it doesn't disappear on you. Click, keep on, and that app will stay open for the whole duration of your knitting session. I love this. And finally, and this is going to be a big deal for a lot of folks, you can choose how you want your terminology to be shown in your steps. You can either go with abbreviations, and if you're an experienced knitter and you've pretty much memorized all the abbreviations that there are, then you may want it on abbreviations again so you can have more information in a smaller space. But if you're one of those people who doesn't want to have to keep flipping back and forth, then you can click long form and all those abbreviations will be written out in complete words. This makes this so accessible and it's so thoughtful. And finally, while you're in the settings, you can go into the Ravelry link and you can link your app with your Ravelry library so that your Tin Can Knits patterns that you already own, anything that becomes app enabled will be exported into the app for you to use. And you can also access all of your Tin Can Knits PDFs directly from the app, which I also find super handy. Now, those are not app enabled, so they won't be responsive and you won't be able to use them to run through a project the way I'm about to show you, but it means you don't have to open up Ravelry separately, scroll to your library, scroll down your patterns to find the one you're looking for. They're right there in your Tin Can Knits app. You just press the button and boom, it will open up that PDF for you to work from. Okay, project time. Here we go. We're going to go into the App Patterns tab and we're going to select a pattern that we want to knit. And today I'm going to pick the Antler Cardigan, which I talked about in my last Wallet Worthy Patterns video. The link is up there as I explained that I have some little ones that I need to knit for, and this was one of the patterns that I had selected to knit. So why don't we open it up and see how easy it's going to be for me to knit this. All right, so in this particular pattern, our first option is sizes. In other patterns, it's first going to ask which weight of yarn you want to use. That would be for patterns that offer you variable yarn weights within the pattern, such as the flax sweater, which can be done in fingering, DK, or worsted, so you get to pick one of those weights. This particular pattern is only in worsted or Aran weight, and so we don't get to pick. We get to move straight to sizes. Here I am on the size selection page. You can see I can choose from children's sizes, or I can flip it over to adult sizes. I'm knitting this for a child, so we're going to keep it in children's sizes for now. And I am going to scroll across and pick the 2 to 4 year old size. And you can see as I scroll down, it gives me all the measurements for that size. It gives me the schematic, and it talks about the fit. Then we click materials. And one of my other favorite things about this app is right away at the top, it tells me exactly how much yarn I need to knit that pattern in that particular size. Also on this page, I can see the gauge, I can see the needles that I need, and any notions that I might need to buy. Because this is a cardigan, I'm going to need a button. 5. All right, now we are almost ready to knit. We're on the summary page, so we can take a quick look at the information that's specific to our pattern in our size in our yarn. And the project info window pops up and asks me if I want to enter this information now or do it later. So while we have it open, let's enter this bit of info now. This is where we personalize our project. I'm just going to call it Antler. I'm knitting it for Victoria, and I get to tell it what yarn I'm using if I already know. I'm going to have to make something up because, believe it or not, I don't have the yarn I need for this pattern. Not in a color that I like. I know, it's shocking, but sometimes that happens. Let's tell it that we're going to use Cascade 220, and let's pretend I'm going to knit it in pink. And then I get to pick the color from the color spectrum, which is completely unnecessary, but I just love looking at this color spectrum. So I'm going in to do it because it's fun. And there we go. Now we're ready to knit. And here we are back on the project page. And you can see right under the summary, there is a button that says View Charts. And this is where you're going to find the pattern charts. So let's pop in there and take a look. There are 2 charts in here. There's the Antler cable chart and there's the Antler decrease chart. So if we scroll back and forth, we can see the chart. We can make it bigger and smaller using the magnifying glasses. We'll pop into the other chart. That's the decrease chart. And up in the top, we can hit the key if we want to see the key for the chart, which tells us more details about the symbols that we see on the chart, or we can hit view text in case you're not a chart person and you would rather read the instructions written out. Okay, let's get to work. Before we actually start knitting, what we might want to do is go look at the Antler Cardigan in-depth tutorial, the link for which is right here, right before we begin working on the pattern instructions. So we've got the link that goes directly to Tin Can Knit's page where they describe in detail how to knit a bottom-up cardigan. Lots of detail. We'll go back to the app and move on. Read a little bit about the construction for this pattern, just to make sure we understand what we're doing before we do it. We're going to start with the sleeves. We're going to knit both sleeves, then we're going to knit the body, we're going to join them all together, and then knit the yoke. One of the really fun parts about this app is the highlighting of each step as you go. And you use that big yellow bar down at the bottom to move your way through the pattern as you complete a step. Each time you click that yellow bar, it's going to move you down to the next step. We're starting with the first sleeve. And here are the sleeve instructions. Cast on, work the rib for 1.5 inches, change to larger needles, do an increase round, work, do an increase round, check your stitch count. I love this part. I know I'm always nagging people to check their stitch counts. It'll save you headaches later, I promise. Knit for 8 inches, and then click the button, and boom! Guess what happens? Instead of moving on to the body, you go to the second sleeve because you still have another sleeve to knit. And down we go, finishing all the sleeves. And now we're on the body. So we're going to cast on and then start the ribbing. Now the ribbing needs to be knit for 1.5 inches. So if I keep clicking that little arrow, it's just going to toggle me back and forth between rows 1 and 2 until I have my 1.5 inches. Then I can tap the button that says 1.5 inches and it will move me on to the next step. And then we just go through the rest of the instructions step by step. Now at any time on any of these steps, you can click that little plus sign in the upper right-hand corner, and it will take you to a support page just for that step. So here's the support page for the step we were just on. It gives you all the information about any abbreviations or techniques that are involved in that particular step. And you can also add a note if there's something you want to remind yourself about, something you're going to do differently, or something you encountered at this part that was challenging. That note will show up. When you add the note here, it will show up with that step on the main project page. Okay, and we're back to work on our yoke. And then we've got the finishing, the neckline, the button band, and we're done. And we're back into patterns. And when we're all done, we're going to go back into patterns and pick our next project. Now, come on. You can't tell me that wasn't just the coolest thing. Seriously. I know I'm a bit of a tech nerd, and maybe you don't love knitting patterns this way. And I appreciate that this app is just sublimely simplified, easy to use, right at your fingertips everywhere you go, and super fun. And maybe someday you'll be able to import your own patterns, but I'll talk about that in just a minute. First, I just want to show you the last tab in the app, and that is the shop tab. And that is where you can go to purchase any of the Tin Can Knits app-enabled responsive patterns that you might not already own. And I'm pretty sure that no matter what your tastes are, there's going to be something here that you're going to like. Okay, the bottom line is it worth downloading? And I'm sure you've already guessed, the answer is absolutely. If you're already a fan of Tin Can Knits patterns, this app just makes knitting those patterns so much easier and simpler and super fun. If you're new to Tin Can Knits, this app is a great introduction to how inclusive and well-designed their patterns are. And if you're not an app person at all, no problem. Tin Can Knits is going to continue to produce their stellar PDF versions of their patterns. This app is just a very welcome additional tool for those who enjoy that sort of thing. And they have visions for the future. What does that include? More patterns added to the app, of course. In-app videos of specific techniques. So right now those links take you either to YouTube or to their website, but eventually they would like to have those videos embedded right in the app. The ability to tailor adjustments. So if you know in advance that you only want to knit the body to a certain length, or you want this kind of neckline, or you want a different size back and front, or a different size sleeve, you would be able to enter that information and the app would do the math for you. More yarn weight variations for more of the patterns, and maybe even translation into different languages. These people think big. It's free, it's fun, and it's a perfect little tool to keep you organized while you're working on a project. What's not to love? Now don't blame me if you fall down a rabbit hole and Tin Can Knits patterns once you download this app. How about you? Are you going to try it? Do you already use it? Do you love it? Let us know down in the comments. We're curious. Have you tried this app and Knit Companion? Which one do you like better? Obviously Knit Companion you can use for the patterns of many different designers, and this one is specifically for Tin Can Knits for now. But what do you think about the usability and the interface? I genuinely would like to know. If you found today at all helpful or interesting or fun, boop that thumbs up button. Subscribe if you're not already a subscriber. Remember that you can become a member of the After Hours Lounge with me and Oscar and a bunch of our friends. The information is down in the description box. There's a link to a short little video that will tell you all about it. So we'll see you next week, and in the meantime, keep those needles clicking. And if you'd like to see my version of this Tin Can Knits app created on paper, check out my video on how to make a pattern blueprint. I say goodbye. Oscar says goodbye, and we'll see you next time. Bye!